it's not just cheap production methods and unscrupulous sales that you need to be wary of. There's also good quality products that can fail. When I moved into this, it used to be a lorry yard, and there's a big metal building, we call it the hangar, that's 20 meters long, 10 meters wide, 6 meters high. The previous owner had stripped out all the electrics and left the wires dangling. So it was very unsafe and we couldn't use it. The wires were live. There was no lighting. They'd remove all the lights as well. So it wasn't a nice situation. But I learned in my childhood, doing a little bit of fire brigade training, that if you're feeling your way around a house, you do it using the back of your hand, because if you touch a live wire, you can't help what happens next, and that is the electricity will make the muscle contract. It's involuntary. You can't prevent that. That's how a muscle works from an electrical stimulus. So if you touch a live wire, your hand will fly away. If you're groping around feeling and you touch a live wire, you'll grip it. You'll grab hold of it. If you grab a live wire between your thumb and finger, it will spasm together and you won't be able to let go. You'll just be standing there being continually shocked. The other thing is, the heart is spasms so that it stops beating. It's contracted, convulsed at 35 milliamps. So that's why earth leakage trips are rated at 30 milliamps, so that you get a good belt, but it will trip the power and you won't be continuously shocked to stop your heart. So on our property, part of the income, this isn't it, this is from an old consumer unit that was removed, but the incoming mains comes in via an earth leakage circuit breaker. This is a 3-phase. We've got 3-phase coming into the property. This is 3-phase. Excuse me. And if it sees more than 30 milliamps leakage current between live and neutral, it trips the power out. Well, there was no consumer unit on some of the wires that were sticking out of the wall, and they were solid conductors, so they were quite thick and heavy. They were 3-phase. It was a 3-phase socket that was removed. So I couldn't switch off a trip to disable it. So I turned off the power at the incoming isolator. And bearing in mind what I said about using the back of your hand, don't be in a position where a shock will make you grip something and make it worse. I was trying to tidy up some of the wires and I brushed against it with the back of my hand, but I touched two. I'd taken the precaution of standing on a rubber mat about 1/2 inch, so that if I got a shock, it would go through one arm down my side, but wouldn't be able to have a good circuit through to ground, so it wouldn't be too bad. I would never grip anything metallic with my other hand while probing around where there is electricity, because if you get a shock from your right hand, if you're right-handed, it's going to pass up your right arm, straight across your chest, through your heart and out through your left. That's the circuit it's going to take, stopping your heart. So I always keep one hand either in my pocket or behind my back, or just out of the way, where I'm not tempted to use it to grip and make things tighter. So I'd done all of this. I was stood on the rubber mat, but when I brushed up against it, the two wires, there was a full voltage. There was a wisp of burnt me wafting up, and it hurt for days. It was like being bitten by a snake. 2 deep pits in the skin. I eventually tracked the cause of that, to effectively the incoming isolator is 3 phases that are all operated together. So when you switch it off, there's 3 sets of contacts that interrupt every phase. But over the years that this was in use, this building, and the high amount of current that was being drawn, and the contacts being opened and closed, there's a lot of power failures in France, this area anyway. And each time you get a trip, you get a spark jumping across, and the more current is being drawn, it's like the arc welder. The more current is being drawn, the bigger the spark, and it takes a bit of metal with it. So you end up with a hollow on one side and a lump on the other, and eventually that lump can touch, and the arc can keep going and weld the contacts shut, which was exactly what happened. So when you switch the mains off, 2 of the trips opened, so those 2 phases were broken, but the 3rd set of contacts were welded closed, and so that phase was permanently live. It was unable to be turned off from the property. It was connected up to the supply outside. So the point is, it's not just your own mistakes you need to worry about and what items you're using. You have to be able to deal with equipment failures as well, and they're happening all the time, otherwise there'd be a lot of people out of work. So it's all about being careful, taking responsibility for what might happen. But if you do that, there's a lot that can be done that you might not otherwise know about. And that's what this series of little videos has been about, offering ideas that others might find useful. Don't take my word for it though. If the idea is there and you're interested in something, go and do some searching around on the internet and see what other people have to say. Because I have to say that when I first found out about the electrolysis deruster, several of the people that had done YouTube videos actually got the polarity totally wrong. And they were telling you how to do things wrong. It's not the only example. I've seen things, animated GIFs demonstrating a circuit that was plainly wrong. If you know, for someone who knows a little bit about electronics, electrical circuit theory, you can see it's wrong. By the way, I'm not an electrician. Don't be under any false impression about that. I used to do electronics and computers, but I've never been an electrician, so it's all home taught, if you like, and common sense. But there are people out there that will deliberately mislead those that are willing to fall for it. So do a bit of widespread searching and fill in the gaps until you're confident that you know what's going on. All these items have been mentioned in the videos. I'm not going to say where to get them from and who to get them from, because for a start that will change. By the time some people look at these videos, the sellers of these would have disappeared. What I'll do though is put up an eBay page which shows how I go about finding things. Put the minimal words that are going to find the item you're interested in up in the search line. On the left hand side in the options, I tick worldwide, so that it's not just because that example there is .co.uk, the UK market. Although I'm in France, I still buy on .co.uk. I can read English a lot more than I can read French, that's for sure. So if you put worldwide, you also collect things that are aimed at the non-UK market. I mean, there's a lot of items that have come up with, say, Australian pricing that's aimed at the Australian market. So it gives you a wider choice to select from and often better prices. The other option is you can go to ebay.com, of course, the American eBay, and you'll get a much wider range there. In the left-hand column, as well as worldwide, I invariably tick buy it now, because I have no interest in second-hand junk. I don't want to buy something and then find out that there's a problem with it and there's not a lot I can do about it. I want to buy new, using PayPal, and if there's a problem, I'll get a refund, eBay refund or a PayPal refund. And I've needed to do that several times. So buy it now, but also, of course, free postage, because when you're on about a cheap module like this, you know, £1.25, I think this is available for, 2 kilowatt module. It's shown in the eBay screen dump that should be up now at the moment. But some of them, if you don't put free postage, they can try charging £6, £8, £10, some 20 odd pounds for a couple of pounds worth of equipment. So free postage, if you don't get enough results that you can select from, well, untick free postage, and then you can go through the increased amount of results that you get and just check out the postage prices, because some may be reasonable. But I start with free postage. China, the sellers have subsidized postage from the Chinese government, and the only way they really lose is if the items are returned to them, because then they lose their subsidies. I don't know the full details. All I know is if they sell you something that isn't as described or is faulty, it's very rare that they will want to pay the return costs to receive that item back, because not only is there that charge involved, they lose their original subsidy or part of their original free shipping subsidy, which obviously the more China ships out around the world, the better its income. And so free postage from China. The other items, you can get things from AliExpress, Banggood. Be a bit careful with Banggood, because if everything's fine, no problem. But in my experience, it's Banggood that is the seller. And I've had, in one of the videos, it showed a green angle grinder, green and black angle grinder. That was supposed to have been quite an expensive speed control version with a chuck, an option chuck that was delivered with it. They sent a cheap non-speed control angle grinder without a chuck, and it's difficult to get a big business like, say, Banggood, who's situated in China, to play ball, be fair. They've got your money, why should they give it up? You can't get it from them. Well, you can't really do that unless you've paid with PayPal. That's your only stick that lets you get justice. So you need to be a little bit more careful. Someone like Amazon, again, they give you a good guarantee. So if you order something and it's not what was described, then fine, you're covered. You know, the guy's making enough money, he can launch his old second-hand car into space. So I don't know if it's him or if it was the eBay guy, but they're not short of money. They can cover your ass. And that's about it. I hope some of this is of use to some people.